Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. It's Friday. You know what that means. Front Office Friday! Keith, I hope I did you proud there, buddy. I hope I did you proud. He may be listening from the road. I'm not sure. I know he's somewhere in the middle of Louisiana right now. Yeah, no, Keith. Unfortunately, sorry, guys. He is on vacation right now. He is on the road. I was just texting with him. Keith is on the road and he is tired of being in the car. No Keith edition of the show. Yeah, unfortunately. I'm sad too. I'm sad too. It's not the same when Keith doesn't say. I know. I know. Oh, a 6 out of 10. Ouch. I tried. I tried. I did my best. Did my best. But I'm here, be taking your questions, your comments, all of that we're going to be getting into on today's show. Talk about a little bit about what's happening around the NBA right now, some things that are happening. We look at the trade market, particularly the restricted free agents and what's happening with those guys. Jonathan Kaminga, Quentin Grimes. Oh, Cam Thomas, what is going on? That Nets low ball offer. Yeah, I think it's a low ball offer anyway. That's pretty brutal. We'll talk about those guys, what's happening around the RFAs. Josh Giddey, of course, throw him in as well. NBA expansion, all of that. So lots of stuff to get in. Oh, all right. All right. An 8.5. That's like a solid B. I'll take that. I'll take that. An A for effort. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Think of all the two-way deals Keith might miss. That's a good I guess starting point. We're looking at what's happening right now around the NBA in terms of what moves are actually happening. A lot of teams have done, if not all, most of their offseason moves. They've already been completed. They've done what they're going to do. And so what we're seeing now is we're seeing the more minor moves, the two-way contracts that are going through. We're seeing small stuff for the back end of rosters. And then we're also getting right now players that are actually leaving the NBA. And that's where you really know, okay, free agency, with the exception of the RFAs, the restricted free agents, it's really starting to grind to a halt here. We've got players like Shake Milton, like Lonnie Walker, who are winding up going and signing over in Europe because they weren't able to find a deal in the NBA. And that's where we're at right now. Here we are. What is it? July? Holy moly. It's July 20th. I was going to say July 23rd because time has no meaning in the month of July when we're in NBA free agency period and you lose track of what day it is, like what day of the week it is. All of that, it completely dissolves into the NBA news cycle. But when we hit this point in July, this is kind of where we're at. A lot of the big free agency stuff has come and gone, except for the Jonathan Kamingas of the world, the Josh Giddeys, the Cam Thomas, the Quentin Grimes, all of the RFAs that are still sitting out there right now, kind of stuck because there's no more money. There's no money for Lonnie Walker to get an NBA roster spot. There's not going to be a credible option for a Jonathan Kaminga to go to. That's the problem with restricted free agency right now. All right, let me get into some of your questions, some of your comments, and all of that. Let's go here. The last 20 years, all but maybe 3 years, the NBA champion had a current top 10 player on it. With that being said, can the Clippers be a legit title contender? Kawhi or Harden, not top 10 anymore. Yeah, I think that they can. Now, is it likely? Is it likely? No, it's not likely because for a few reasons. And that's not necessarily a shot at the Clippers, their roster build or anything like that. But I think the Clippers are not likely to win an NBA championship in part because they're in the Western Conference. And any particular team, I mean, OKC has got to have the best odds, no question, to come out of the West. And even they, I would say, if you told me pick the Field or the Thunder, I'm taking the Field because that's how deep the West is. There's so many good teams in the Western Conference. So any one team coming out is not going to be likely. Now, do you need a top 10 player on the Clippers in order to win a championship? I do think under the parameters that you've got an aging Kawhi, you've got an aging James Harden, they've built this team out to the best of their ability to mitigate that. And they've done a really nice job, I think, under the context of not just we're going to try to win right now with these guys, but we're going to try to win right now with these veteran players that maybe are not top 10. And I think you have to hope that while Kawhi can't sustain top 10 all season, all 82 games, which we certainly have seen that's not been the case for him, but can he raise his level of play again in the playoffs? Can we see something like that? And are the pieces around him good enough to give the Clippers a real shot at making a run in the Western Conference? And I think the Clippers have done a nice job of that. It's also important to remember that they were operating under the idea that maybe this next summer, 2026, but definitely 2027, they want flexibility. So they're also, not only are they trying to maximize the current years with Kawhi and with James Harden, they're also limiting themselves in the players that they can target and the number of years they can give out because of that, because they want to have that flexibility in 2027 to pivot their team. So under those restrictions, I think they've done a really nice job putting together the best shot they can at a roster. Now, that said, what's the likelihood that Kawhi, Harden, that Beal, that Chris Paul, that all of these guys that are getting up to, I mean, hell, even Bogdan Bogdanović is 33 years old. What is the likelihood that these guys all are able to go, or they're all 100%? You don't have injuries hitting these guys in the postseason. I'd say that's fairly unlikely given the age of this roster. Players get older, they get injured more often, and when you do get injured, it takes longer to heal. Trust me. God, look at I sleep wrong and I'm hurting the next day now. 20 years ago, I literally would dive on concrete playing soccer and do it no problem. Pop back up and I'm good to go. You get older, not only do you get injured more often, but it takes longer to recover from injuries too. So what's the likelihood they're all healthy? I'd say it's not very likely either. Can the Clippers be a legit title contender? Yes, but it's a narrow window. It's a tough needle to thread. They need everybody playing at a high level. They need everybody to be healthy. Just like everybody else in the West, they're going to need to get specific matchups that will be beneficial for them. They need a lot of things to come together. Under the idea, though, that, hey, we're going to give Kawhi and Harden reasonably the best shot we can without sacrificing future flexibility, I don't know that they could have been expected to do much better with the roster they put together. Let's put it that way. And look, I don't feel great. I don't feel great about praising the Clippers. I don't feel great about it. That's not in my DNA. I don't want to do that. I want to talk trash about the Clippers, right? The tenants for so long. The other team in LA, the unwanted house guest that just won't leave. Seattle wants a team, Clippers. Come on, the name probably even makes more sense in Seattle than in LA. But being objective, I do think the Clippers have done a nice job. I don't have them as a legit title contender right now. They would need some things to break their way. But I do think that they've done a nice job putting this team together. And they tend to do a pretty nice job. Okay, let's keep going here. Is the CBA creating an unintended consequence of non-guaranteed contracts? Doesn't this hurt the players more if that's the case? Yeah, look, there's a lot of things that in the CBA that I think worked out not in the players' favor. Now, there's other things that did work out in the players' favor, but in terms of things that have not worked out in the players' favor, I think the apron restrictions are punitive enough to where teams are now being very, very careful with their long-term flexibility. And I think what's happened is negative value contracts are more damaging than they were under the previous CBA. And so teams are being very, very careful to not get negative money on their books. And that's where you're seeing teams put in more team options. You're seeing teams put in more non-guaranteed years on contracts because they want that flexibility. They want the ability to get out of that contract, to get that off their books and pivot if they need to. And that's a negative for the players. That's a downside for a player. If you're Shake Milton, man, I mean, could have got $3 million. I mean, he wasn't signed under I guess technically he was on the new CBA, but not specifically to react to this CBA. But still, you could have got $3 million, right? Instead, now you had a non-guaranteed year, and that's it. You're cut, and now you're going and you're playing over in Europe. And so we are starting to see that become more prevalent. These non-guaranteed years in contracts, and teams are having to be I don't know if responsible is the word we want to use, but a bit more careful with the contracts that they're giving out. And that is a direct reflection of the new collective bargaining agreement. So does it hurt players? It does. It does. It does hurt players because they're not able to get that locked in money. But that's what teams are doing now. You're seeing, I think we're also seeing less teams willing to just anybody that's all-star-ish level automatically gets a max contract. We're seeing less of that. And we did see that for a while, where if you were all-star adjacent, there you go, max contract. Oh, yeah, you qualify here. Here's a max contract. You get one too, right? We were handing those things out like crazy. And now teams are being much more selective over who gets max money, how long those deals go for, all those sorts of things. The true max guys are still the true max guys. They're still going to get their max money. The guys that are really worth it, the top tier stars, they're still going to get their max money. It's the other guys. It's the guys where you look at it and you say, well, why is a Paul George, say, right? Look at the Sixers right now. They're maybe regretting giving Paul George max money. Why is a Paul George level player getting the same as like Luka? Why is or a Brandon Ingram type player maybe in the past would have gotten max money? Why would that player get the same as one of your true 1A? We build around this guy. This dude's going to put us on his shoulders, carry us to the playoffs. Those guys, the true 1A guys, are getting the max money now. The guys who were max, but not really a 1A build around guy, those guys aren't getting that money quite as much because teams are having to be careful with how they build out their rosters. And I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing. Yeah, there needs to be a middle ground. Yep. Any news on Keon Ellis rumors with the Lakers or Warriors? So there was a bit on that with the Warriors are in the Jonathan Kaminga situation where Kaminga is right now just stuck. I mean, that is a mess. Jonathan Kaminga is stuck as a restricted free agent right now with the Golden State Warriors. There's no money out there in free agency for anybody to give him an offer sheet. And essentially, he wants $30 million at least. He's turned down a big deal last time. Maybe we're regretting that now. Yeah. But Kaminga wanted $30 million at least. The Warriors say, no, we want you around $20 million because we want to flip your contract. We want to trade you. And we're not going to be able to trade you if you're at $30 million because some teams are going to look at $30 million bucks a year for Jonathan Kaminga and they're going to say this is not positive value. This is a negative value contract. $20 million, we feel pretty good. You're going to be a positive value and we're going to be able to trade you. We don't really want to keep you. And Jonathan Kaminga says, well, joke's on you because I don't really want to stay either. The problem is right now they're kind of stuck together. But so there's sign and trades that have been discussed. One of them being with Sacramento, potentially sending him to the Kings. However, the Kings are giving up offering Devin Carter and pieces like that. And the Warriors say, well, no, we want Keon Ellis. Saying, no, we want Keon Ellis. We want Keegan Murray. We want future draft capital. We want all the stuff. And the Kings are going to counter. And by the way, the Suns are in the mix as well, offering Grayson Allen. The Warriors don't want Grayson Allen. But because of how long his contract goes, if you look at how similar the Warriors books are to the Clippers books. Look at 2027. Huh. Interesting, right? And the Warriors denying any interest in Grayson Allen, denying any kind of deal that would involve Grayson Allen coming because he has 3 years on his deal and would go into that 2027 space. Teams are loading up. Teams are loading up for that summer. But Keon Ellis is a player that the Kings really don't want to move. And I don't blame them because, frankly, when we look at Sacramento, I think that what they need is more Keon Ellis type players. That's what they don't have enough of that. And turning Jonathan Kaminga into Keon Ellis, that would be a nice fit for the Warriors to get Keon Ellis. But for the Kings, getting rid of Keon Ellis to get Jonathan Kaminga, I don't think that necessarily helps you. Not in the way you need it to. Because really what the Kings need to do is take, in my opinion, LaVine, Sabonis, DeRozan, Malik Monk, your top 4 earners, all basically do the same thing. They put the ball in the basket. And they don't give you a whole lot else. Zach LaVine can be a good secondary creator. Malik Monk can be a good secondary creator. Sabonis can be a good secondary creator. DeRozan can be a good secondary creator, but they all are by default scorers. That's what they do. They put the ball in the basket and they're taking up the vast majority of your cap space. And so what the Kings need to do is get some of these guys gone, maybe two of them gone, where their base skill set is putting the ball in the basket, and get more well-rounded pieces. Get some guys where they can really lock in defensively. And Keon Ellis is one of those guys that can be a switchy, versatile defensive player. They need more Keon Ellis's on their roster. They need to get rid of a couple of these guys where their base skill set is scoring, and then build around, say, LaVine and Sabonis, and then a bunch of guys who play defense and can hit shots from the outside and give you some versatility there. That's how the Kings become a at least dangerous team. Right now, they're an island of misfit toys. And moving on from Keon Ellis isn't going to help them get closer to what it is that they ultimately need to be. So that's the challenge. And particularly if you're adding a Jonathan Kaminga, who he'll try on the defensive end, but he's not great there. Doesn't give you a whole lot of floor spacing, but he's certainly a talent. And if you're the Kings and you're looking for the future, yeah, he's a worthwhile target. But again, you've got to move off of probably two of these other guys, of LaVine, Sabonis, DeRozan, and Monk, to really transition your roster over to what it truly needs to be if the Kings are going to get back to where they need to be. And I think you can make the argument even for this roster, they should just tear it down. Keep Keegan Murray, keep Keon Ellis, get what you can for Zach LaVine, Sabonis, and then build up from there and do it the right way. But I think the Kings, they got that taste of the playoffs after missing for 17 years the playoffs, and they don't want to step back. They're afraid to rip off the Band-Aid and go back into a rebuild, because that's where they were, and that's where they were coming from, and they were in that unpleasant period. So I understand that, but ultimately, losing Keon Ellis doesn't get them closer to what they need to be. I like them targeting Jonathan Kaminga just fine. He's a young player. I like him better for Phoenix, where the Phoenix Suns don't have a power forward right now. He would immediately fit in their starting lineup. Now, is he the perfect fit skill set wise? Maybe not. But that roster is in such flux anyway in Phoenix. Does it really matter? No. Get the pieces right now, and you're still trying to put the puzzle together, and you're going to swap guys in and out and everything. Phoenix can't go into the season with a roster looking like this. It's crazy. I mean, like I said, they don't have a power forward on the roster right now. Dylan Brooks would probably start at the 4. That's not really what you want. So Kaminga makes sense for the Suns, I think, even more than for the Kings. But for Sacramento, for them, they need to hang on to Keon Ellis. They need to get, and by the way, the latest news is they are looking to extend, to do an extension with Keon Ellis. They need to come up with a new deal for him. They need to get that done. He's non-guaranteed for this year. They need to get him on a long-term deal. They need more of the Keon Ellises of the world rather than lose him. All right, let me see what else we've got. Am I going to see Fantastic Four? I tried to talk my wife into it, but I think we're going to wind up watching Happy Gilmore 2 tonight instead. I tried, but she has no interest in seeing it. I did my best. I can't complain too much. She lets me watch all the basketball that I want to watch. How did I select Phoenix so fast? I've done it a bunch of times. Yeah, I'm hoping that Happy Gilmore 2 is good. I'm excited to give that a look. So I'll probably watch that in just a little bit. Oh, good question here. And I should have mentioned this, Smokey. What's the Kings apron situation look like? I want to say they're 8 million clear. Yeah, okay, 9.8 million clear of the first apron. So that's an added challenge for the sign and trade with Jonathan Kaminga, because let's say the Kings decide we want to give Jonathan Kaminga 30 million a year. Okay, that's 30 million a year in incoming salary. You can't just absorb all of that, especially with your apron concerns. So you're going to have to send out that much money, which then you're talking about building something off of Malik Monk. Like you can only stack up so many Dario Saric's and Devin Carter's. That's not a lot. You kind of have to put Malik Monk in, which again, you run into that problem where Malik Monk 2027 Warriors automatically go, nope, 2027 money on the books. We don't want that. It's a $21.5 million player option. Same reason why the Warriors are not interested in what the Suns are offering, because the Suns have Grayson Allen, 19.4 million sitting on the books for 2027. Warriors go, nope, no 2027 money. We don't want that. And that's why we're stuck. The Suns want to pay Jonathan Kaminga. The Kings want to pay Jonathan Kaminga, or at least I'm assuming they do if they're interested in trading for him. But the Warriors don't want to take back 2027 salary. So that's where we get stuck. Maybe he winds up just taking his qualifying offer and playing on that. Let's see here. Hey, Trev. Hey, Toph. What's up? Are more teams going to run into cap situations because the salary cap doesn't increase as much as we're forecasting? Yeah, I mean, that'll be a complicating factor. Now, the good thing is we already have a sense a year in advance of what that's going to look like. But yeah, with the cap only going up 7% projected, and we'll see what the numbers actually come in at, because the league is going to take stock of that at the end of each year. But we'll see what the numbers actually come in at. But right now, a 7% increase, at least we know ahead of time. At least it's not projected 10, and then next summer, suddenly it's surprise, it's only 7, and then everybody's scrambling. We know now that it's projected at 7, and so teams can respond. But yeah, that can create issues. The cap's not going to go up as much. That's going to limit some flexibility. The one thing that I will say is that when this new CBA came out, I thought when I was looking at this, I thought that this was going to be too restrictive. I thought the new collective bargaining agreement, and I don't even know if we can call it new anymore because we're a few years in, but I thought it was too restrictive of trade specifically. And this is my least favorite piece of the collective bargaining agreement, the rule that two teams that are above the first tier apron essentially are very, very difficult to trade with each other, because any team that's above the first tier apron cannot take back more salary than they're sending out in a trade, which based on the old rules, it would have just been, well, you need to be basically within 125%, and you could take back more money and all of that. Now, if you're above the first apron, you can't do that. And so if you have two teams that are above the first apron, neither one can take back more salary. Really hard to structure a trade where neither team takes back more salary. Now, Phoenix and Houston pulled it off due to likely incentives in Dillon Brooks' deal, where he went from a playoff team to a non-playoff team. So his incoming salary was actually less than what he was counted out on the Rocket side. And so it actually made it work. But that was, I mean, by the skin of their teeth, they pulled it off at a very much an outlier situation. So I thought that would make trading too restrictive. And instead, what's happened is teams have, and I think the NBA greatly benefits from the very active and robust trade market in terms of just the news, the rumors, the buzz of all of that. I think the NBA benefits from it. But instead, what teams have done is they've gotten more and more creative around the collective bargaining agreement, and they've found ways to make moves. They've gotten third teams involved. They've done different things that maybe you wouldn't have expected them to do otherwise. And so they've impressed me with that, and they've found ways to navigate these new rules. That said, to a man, most GMs complain about the new collective bargaining agreement and how restrictive it is of their trading efforts. And I think a 7% increase it'll be a hurdle. It'll be another challenge, but teams have been resourceful so far, and they've figured out ways around things. And I think they will continue to do that. Yeah, exactly. I just made this reference with Donnie over on the Basketball Bulletin. So it's like Jurassic Park. Life finds a way. He and I were talking about CJ McCollum's comments about teams should be able to keep their drafted players, that they shouldn't find themselves in a situation where they have to lose players because they drafted well. We shouldn't punish teams for drafting well. And I think that's a very deep and nuanced conversation that we could spend a long, long time on. But ultimately, teams have figured out ways to navigate these rules. Yeah, very true. Nothing more true than happy wife, happy life, words to live by. Yes, especially since we're leaving town tomorrow morning. So I know there's already that stress of we got to pack and get the house ready and all that kind of stuff. So that too, and trying to squeeze in a trip out to the movies and all that probably be a bit much. And I understand that would probably raise her stress level as well while she's got 50 million things on her mind. With me, it's like 95% of my brain is just basketball, right? Like I could focus in on that. With her, it's I got to make sure I bring this, I got to bring that, I got to bring this, I got to bring that. For me, the only way that my brain operates when I'm thinking like that, it's when I'm packing up my stuff to bring with me. It's okay. I need to make sure I bring my laptop. I got to bring my camera. I got to make sure I've got this mic. Do I have this charger? Do I have this cord and all that? When it comes to clothes and stuff, I just I start filling up my suitcase, and when it's full, I'm done packing. Like that's my approach to to packing. So my brain operates differently than her. So I try to give her some grace there and um yes, and try to keep her happy. So if I don't subject her to Fantastic Four and instead she's happy to watch Happy Gilmore 2, then we're gonna do that. And I'm more than thrilled to watch Happy Gilmore 2 as well. Now, this doesn't make me feel better, though. Menace says Fantastic Four is one of the best Marvel movies ever made. 10 out of 10. Okay, maybe I'm gonna have to like figure out some way to go see it. I'm gonna have to figure out some way. Is my wife a Marvel fan or not really? Like kind of. Like she'll watch the movies. We went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine and and stuff like that. Um, what was the last thing we saw? Oh, Thunderbolts was actually the last movie we saw. So she is uh like she doesn't know all the characters, she doesn't know all the plot lines and all that kind of stuff. She won't choose to watch a Marvel movie on her own, right? Like if I'm out of town for summer league, she's not going to sit down and watch a Marvel movie. She's going to watch like a true crime movie or something like that. That's more her speed. But she will watch them with me in general. She'll watch them. It's not like something she would want to go sit down and watch on her own though. Will there be a live Lakers Nation show? Yes. Yeah, yeah. There is going to be a live show tonight. I'm aiming for, depending on how late I want to be up because I have to travel in the morning. I'm probably going to shoot for 9 o'clock Pacific time. I'm going to schedule it in a little bit on the YouTube channel. So when I for sure put in a time, it'll be on there. But yeah, I'm going to do a live show tonight before I head out of town. And then everything else I do will be from the road. Have I seen Superman? Nope. Haven't seen Superman. I haven't seen that. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. NZ. I'm assuming that's Charlotte. Any moves for Charlotte over the roster limit? No real bigs. I think Charlotte. It's a little bit like the Pacers, and not that the Pacers and Charlotte are in the same situation. Specifically, when we're talking about the big spot, though, like they don't have a lot. They're gonna have to rely a bit on Mason Plumlee to do some things for that team at the big position. It it's kind of a mess in Charlotte, but I will say they just won the Summer League championship. They've got some good young talent coming in, and I don't think this is a team. Musa Diabate can do some things for them too, but I don't think this is a team. And I shouldn't leave out Ryan Kalkbrenner. I do think they're going to make him a rotation guy, even though they got him in the second round. I think they're going to make him a rotation guy, like from the get go. He's going to have to be. But I don't think, in the terms of this team's build, they are going to panic over the fact that they don't have a center right now. I think it's just about asset accumulation and doing what you can. And if you don't have the guy long term, and maybe Kalkbrenner does become that, maybe he does become the guy long term for them. But even if he's not, I don't think Charlotte's in a point where they go, oh my God, if we don't have a center, how are we going to make a run to the NBA Finals this year? No, that's not the stage in their build that they're in right now. So they've got some really good pieces. Con Knipples was fantastic in Summer League. Loved what we saw out of him. Obviously, he was great. Brandon Miller, hopefully he comes back and is healthy. They've got some really intriguing pieces here. Liam McNeely, man, he shot the ball in Summer League. They've got some pieces here, but I don't think they're going to panic. If they could find a center, sure, great. That'd be wonderful. They could find another center. In the meantime, find out what you've got with Ryan Kalkbrenner. Use Plumlee as your veteran is going to play 15 minutes a night or whatever. Scour the market, see if you can find somebody on a two-way, anything like that, and then go from there. So I think that's where Charlotte's at. If Vucevic gets bought out, sure. You could see if he's available. Is Ball not that? What? The guy? I think he's the guy on this team right now. I'm talking about the guy at the center position. Is this a record for bought out players? Yes, certainly in terms of the amount of money that's been bought out. We've seen the top two buyouts in NBA history happen in the last couple of weeks with Beal and Damian Lillard. Those are the largest buyouts we have ever seen by a solid amount. So yeah, Vucevic isn't going from Chicago to Charlotte. Probably not. Most of the times when it's a veteran that gets bought out, they want to go to a team where they can win. But Charlotte could, in theory, say, we'll give you 30 minutes a night or whatever. But typically, they want to go to teams where they can win. And I do think a Vucevic buyout, it makes more sense after the trade deadline than right now. Oh, top 3 movies all time. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is definitely up there. I think that might be my number one. Has been for a long time. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I love the irony of a teacher loving a movie where a kid skips school. That one's up there. What else? I mean, there's so many movies that I love that picking an exact top 3 is tough. I think Thor Ragnarok is one of mine. I loved that movie. I thought that movie was awesome. I would say I'm going to go to a lot of Marvel movies. You know what, though, is one movie, and I'd probably go like Endgame or something like that, just for the epic nature of it, or maybe the first Avengers movie. But one movie that I want to give a shout out to, I wouldn't put it in my top 3, but it's the movie that if it's on anytime, and it's on pretty often, I can sit down and just watch it. I actually watched it on my flight out to Summer League a few weeks ago. I was like, it was in the options. I was flying United, and it was in the options to watch. And I'm like, oh, well, this is appropriate. It's Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 with the George Clooney, Brad Pitt version, not the sequel, Ocean's 12 or whatever, Ocean's 13, Ocean's 11. So good. So good. Just one of those heist movies that you can throw on at any time. Love that one. Who'd you sign with the Lakers' last two-way spot? Maybe DJ Stewart. That's an interesting one. I thought he played pretty well in Summer League, but I also think there's opportunity here if you're the Lakers. Just see how things settle with your open two-way spot. See what happens in training camp. Maybe somebody earns it. That's always possible. Let's see what else we've got. Do you think the Lakers make a move for Robert Williams or just sit till the trade deadline? I don't think they just sit till the trade deadline. I think they're active. I think they're going to be out there exploring the market. I think it's possible that we see a pre-trade deadline move, like a December move, a January move. We saw it last year with Dorian Finney-Smith. I think the most likely scenario for the Lakers is that the roster as is the roster they go into the season with. I think this is the roster they go into the season with. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to try. I think they will continue to explore the market. And if a trade happens to come up that right now doesn't make sense, and maybe the two sides move a little closer together, then something happens in August. Something could happen in September. We almost had a big trade the day before media day, the night before, in fact, the Lakers and the Pacers. We're talking Miles Turner trade years ago with Russell Westbrook. So That doesn't mean nothing can happen or nothing is going to happen anymore, but I think the most likely outcome for the Lakers is they go into the season with this roster. I also think from a fan perspective, the best place to be in mentally right now is probably that to just say, okay, this is going to be the roster. And then if a trade comes along, a move comes along in August or September, okay, we can be pleasantly surprised. Oh, wow, they got involved in this conversation that we weren't expecting, rather than, oh my gosh, they must do something. They have to do something. I think they've had a good enough summer to where they've bought themselves some time. Some time. They've got, I think there are some things that they could still improve on this roster. I don't think there's any debate about that. I think there's definitely things that they could still do to make the team better. But I also think that there is a value now to going into the season and seeing what they've got and truly seeing where their strengths and weaknesses are before making some kind of move. If there isn't something that they look at right now that they say, wow, this is exactly what we need, right? I don't think they're in a position right now where they have to force anything if we're looking at the Los Angeles Lakers. Let's see what else we've got going on here. What's going on with Dixon? Can the Lakers still sign him? He was hurt. Last I had heard, he was unlikely to be offered um, a two-way contract with the Lakers. So it was just not going to happen. Again, I don't know the extent of the injury, but was not good when I'm sitting there the backstage area at Summer League, and Eric Dixon rolls past on a scooter with his foot in a boot. He went, "Oh, wow." All right, we'll do a few more, and then I'm going to get back to packing. Are the Raptors underrated or am I a homer? Well, I think if you look at the Raptors and you think that this coming season is going to be a repeat of next season, or next season is going to be a repeat of, flip that, last season, they're just going to do the same thing again. I think that's a mistake. I think they will be better. I think they got crushed by injuries last year. And I do think the addition of Brandon Ingram will mean something. Now, maybe it is foolish to bank on any kind of health from Brandon Ingram, who has a long injury history of his own. And look, the Raptors weren't going to rush him back last year, especially when they were in full tank mode. But I do think there's some quality pieces here. I think RJ Barrett is a good player. How he's going to fit with Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes, that'll be interesting to watch. But I think they have some good pieces here. Emmanuel Quickly is probably a better point. Is he worth $32.5 million? I don't know about that, but is he better than I think people give him credit for? Yeah, and then I'm a big fan of Jakob Poeltl. I don't think this is, hey, the Raptors are a top 4 team in the East or something like that, and everybody's sleeping on them. But can they be in the playoff mix? Yeah, I think they absolutely can. I think if you're looking at this coming year and think it's just a repeat of last year, I don't think that's what the Raptors are going to be. What are the Raptors even doing? They saw Brandon Ingram as their shot at pre-agency, which was basically, we're going to go get a guy now on the trade market rather than wait for free agency and try to get him there. We're going to get him in now, and we're going to give him an extension, and off we go, or give him a new deal, and there we go. And so that's what they ultimately did. They're looking at things thinking, okay, we've got a trio of wings now with RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram. We like Jakob Poeltl. We like what he's got going on at the center position. We're going to keep him long term, and we think we are a piece or two away. And they are, I think we're seeing a new thought process with roster building in the NBA, where for a long time it's been, you're either a contender, or if you're not, just tear it all apart because you don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. You either have a shot to win it all or burn it to the ground and lose as much as possible and hope that you can have a shot at being a contender again when you get draft capital. Do not be in the middle. The middle is no man's land. The middle is a treadmill team. That's death. You can't be that. Now, though, I think with increased parity around the NBA. What we're seeing is the difference between the top end teams and the bottom end teams. While it is still vast, it's a little closer together than it was. And what that means is if you're one of those teams in the middle of the pack, the top end team is not as far. You don't have to travel as far to get to that team, especially when we talk about the Eastern Conference. And so if you're a team like the Raptors, you look at it and you say, God, if we get it right on one move or two moves, could we suddenly be the team that's threatening? Could we suddenly be that? You look at what the Atlanta Hawks did this summer, and that's essentially what they've been. They've kind of been that team that's like, oh, look at Atlanta. Isn't that cute? There they are. Middle of the pack. Once again, the Hawks. Good enough to beat you on a random Wednesday in January, but not good enough to actually win when it matters. The Hawks said, you know what? We think we have a chance. We're going to make our moves. We're going to do some stuff right now and see if we can take that next step. And so I think you're seeing teams that are more comfortable with being that and saying we're a move or two away and then looking for that move, then, oh God, we're the 8 seed. This is the worst place to be. Quickly light all of this on fire. Get rid of everybody because we cannot be middle of the pack. I think the middle of the pack teams have more opportunity than they did in years past. And the Raptors, I think, can fit in that. The Bulls are being laughed at as well. The Bulls, though, like organizationally, have been very okay with not doing things that would propel them forward and just staying where they're at. Like, you don't get the sense that the Bulls are looking at things going, well, we're a piece or two away and let's have a clear plan and let's go do that. That's the difference with the Bulls. They seem to be very content with a little bit of extra playoff revenue. Cool. Then we'll call it a year and we'll do it again next year. The Bulls, like the Hawks, they were kind of waiting. Like, okay, we got the Dyson Daniels. Okay, now we've got something. All right, we're really going to go after Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and we're going to win this. We're going to win this sweepstakes, and they do. And all right, now we're going to get Kristaps Porzingis, and I think the Porzingis move came first, but we're going to add these pieces, and we're going to really go. Do the Bulls really want to do that? I don't know. I hope they do, but I don't know. They're kind of stuck. They just seem to be happy staying where they're at. Kings East, as I've been calling them. But I do think in general, we're seeing teams that are, if you're in the middle of the pack, you're not as desperate. You're not as, I guess, screwed as you would have been in years past. No man's land, treadmill team, all that kind of stuff. It's not as bad of a place to be as it was, say, years ago. And by the way, I believe out of Chicago, they're saying they want to play. They want to be a fun team. They want to be exciting. They want to play fast. And they played fast last year. They want to play faster this year. So that'll be interesting to see. The Wizards are league fillers, but they've got something cooking, right? They at least, we're building around these young players. We're going to be patient. We're going to try to make smart moves. And that's what we're going to do. And they've got some pieces. That's what the Wizards are doing. There was at least some plan there. Now, it's probably the most GM-friendly plan in terms of job stability because, hey, the plan is we're going to be good in 5 years. So is the plan working? I don't know. We won't know for a few years. Nice stability, but also not necessarily the wrong path. All right, what else do we have? '76ers could surprise everyone and be a top 3 seed in the East. Yeah, especially VJ Edgecombe is really good, and they're already, of course, very high on him. But the 76ers, if healthy, have a lot of talent. It's that if healthy part, right? I mean, there were people that were predicting the 76ers were going to come out of the East last year, and that's obviously not what wound up happening at all. That was the season from hell. They were just crushed by injuries. But I thought the comment the other day, there was like, I think an anonymous scout or something that said that VJ Edgecombe is going to be their second best player or could be their second best player by the end of the season. And I'm thinking, man, either something went incredibly right with VJ Edgecombe, if that's the case, or something has gone horribly wrong with the rest of their roster. If VJ Edgecombe is better than all but one of Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain was great last year. If he's better than all but one of those guys, most likely the 76ers are in big trouble and they've been crushed by injuries again. Or they got the steal of the draft and VJ Edgecombe is amazing and he's an immediate all-star and ready to just crush people, right? I mean, obviously if you're a Sixers fan, you'd prefer that latter outcome there, but I mean, the talent is there for them to make some noise this year. But can they stay on the floor? I mean, Paul George is already hurt. Paul George is already hurt right now. Joel Embiid, how healthy is he going to be? And you have those contracts on your books, 3 more years with Embiid, 2 more years at least with Paul George. There's no way he's turning down that player option when he's 37 years old at $57 million. Tough spot to be in right now for the 76ers. But I do think if everybody's healthy come playoff time, they could make a run. They could be a team that could be a solid team. But like, what's realistic? What's a realistic number for Joel Embiid to play in terms of number of games played this year? What's realistic? Like, maybe his best case scenario, 60 games? Maybe. Like, the 76ers aren't going to play him that much. They're not going to push him. How about Paul George? Is it 60 also? And the downside is what, like 20 for these guys? That's going to be tough to be a top 3 seed, even in the East. That's going to be tough to be a top 3 seed if 2 of your top guys are missing significant chunks of the season. And I mean, in the West, they'd be in big, big trouble. But even in the East, you've got enough teams that are pushing in the East. When we look at the Knicks, we look at the Cavs. I think the Cavs are in really good shape in the Eastern Conference right now. The Magic obviously going for it. The Hawks, the Detroit Pistons are going to want to take another step. You've got enough good teams in the East that are really going for it and are going to be competing on a night in, night out basis that it may be tough for the 76ers. Oh, good question here. Skylar said, what's this Robert Williams to the Lakers buzz gaining steam? So a couple of the aggregation accounts put out, or at least one of them put out, I don't recall which one, but that Robert Williams was the betting favorite was that he would wind up with the Lakers, basically. The betting odds suggested that Robert Williams would go to the Lakers. But we have to keep in mind with posts like that is that it's betting odds. And it's typically with the qualifier, if the player is not, and I don't know for sure if it's true on this one or not, but a lot of the times you'll see if the player is leaving Team X, in this case it would be the Blazers, then their next team will be, and then the odds on it being the Lakers, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Hornets, the whatever, right? All the different teams that you can list. And so if that's the case, what they're not actually trying to be predictive of what's going to happen. It's not evidence that, oh my gosh, the Lakers are trading for Robert Williams. What it is what people will bet on. What it is what people will believe and place their money on. Is there some buzz that the Lakers could target a player like Robert Williams? Yeah, sure. His injury history, I think, is significant enough to probably give most teams pause. And there may be some stuff already going on. I don't know for sure if there's anything going on with him right now, but it's not an indication that that's happening. It should not be treated as though it shouldn't be treated the same way as Shams tweeting out the Lakers are interested in a Robert Williams trade, or the Lakers are in discussions on a Robert Williams trade, and replace Lakers with any team and Robert Williams with any player, right? It's not the same as that. And sometimes people see stuff like that and they treat it like that. Like, oh, he's most likely going to this team. That's not what's really being said. It's what people will bet on, what people will put money down on. It can sometimes be an indication of kind of the buzz around the market, but it's not reporting that that's happening. I hope that kind of makes sense. and never go off of betting odds. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it goes. Eric said, Trevor is so humble, he wears hats so he doesn't show off the fact that he's a goat. He's the goat. Because you'd see my horns, and they're not devil horns or something like that. No, I have been in the habit, and my hair is obviously all crazy now. I've been in the habit of wearing hats lately. Sometimes, especially when it's like first thing in the morning, usually what I'm doing is I'm trying to hide that I'm so tired. Um, Especially if I'm wearing like my black Dodger hat, because that one like curves more. And I'll just throw that on. But I have been in the habit of wearing hats quite a bit. To the point where when I was in summer league, people were like, "Oh, we didn't recognize you without your hat." Like, yeah, I've just been, I don't know. I've been in a hat mood lately, I guess. Can I wear the hats backwards, please? Am I too old for that? Like, am I allowed to do that? Am I allowed to wear? I don't know. I feel like I'm too old for that. I don't know. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I kind of feel like Turtle from Entourage or something right now. I look like Chad Smith now, the drummer for the Chili Peppers. On occasions, I can get away with it. Yeah, I know. All right, let's go here. Hey, Trevor, do you think Austin could get less next summer since we're seeing teams spend less on superstar players? Um, I think Austin. It's going to depend on the season that he has. If he takes the step forward that I think he believes that he will, and I'm sure he's gearing up to, then it'll be tough to like be asking for a discount there. Now, does that mean the Lakers just have to immediately fork over whatever it is that he's asking for? No, not necessarily. But um, could he get less? It depends, define less. Like, is he going to get 20 million? Probably not, right? I mean, he could have signed for that this summer. So what's less? 25, 30? I don't know. So I wouldn't anticipate him getting like a extreme discount. I mean, let's face it, the deal that he's on right now is a discount. He's a big discount over his production. So I wouldn't assume that he's going to be super thrilled about taking less on his next contract when he's been now third year on a contract that is giving him less. Oh, Fred Durst. Could do that. 25 would be amazing. Yeah. Dennis Schroeder already warned Austin about fumbling the bag. Maybe the reverse snapback is the move. Yeah, I mean, I could try it. This one isn't a snapback. Most of mine are, but this one is not. This one's not. I just like the color of this one. Anyway, this is not front office hat show. How about this lineup? Luka, Marcus Smart, or Reeves, LeBron, Rui, Ayton. Reeves or Smart would be the sixth man. You could. I personally would prefer Rui coming off the bench as the sixth man there and letting Luka defend the wing and then Smart and Austin defending the guards. That would be my preference because I do think when I look at positions, I tend to focus more on who they're going to defend, and I don't think I want Luka defending guards because that's like that would be the question there. If it's Smart or Reeves, who's Luka going to defend? I think the preference, because we saw this last year, the preference should be that Luka gets to defend a 3, maybe even a 4. It may not be feasible all the time, but I think that's got to be the preference. I don't believe in Vando at all. Can you help me believe? Yeah. Yeah. I think there's reason to believe in Jared Vanderbilt. And if you look at the net numbers, and Crane just had something on this recently that showed that like he's one of the most versatile defensive players in the NBA. But if you look at the net numbers, the Lakers have been better with Vando on the floor than off. Look, the shortcomings of his game are noteworthy, are loud when you see him miss a shot right at the rim, when you see him badly miss a corner three, when you see teams leave him and not bother defending him on the offensive end. Um, it's noticeable, but he's a very good defensive player. I know specifically from within the Lakers that the Lakers are very excited about what he can do this year. They believe he's going to take a step forward with a full off season, a healthy off season to train. And I also think that they look at him as potentially not the entire solution, but part of the solution to their point of attack defensive problem. So I do think that we're going to see a bigger season from Jared Vanderbilt. I hope he can stay healthy, but he's actually getting an offseason to train, which he hasn't had that recently. So I think there is some hope that his skill set will improve at least a little bit on the offensive end. We've already seen him working on stuff. There's training footage and stuff going around, but I think he is a legitimately good defensive player that can help the Lakers, a team that very much needs what he brings on the defensive side of the ball. And I also think that JJ Redick can mitigate some of the offensive shortcomings. So in terms of belief in Jared Vanderbilt, should you believe he's suddenly going to become a double-double and not every single night guy? No. But can he help you with your perimeter defense, your point of attack defense? Can he help you with that? Yeah, I think that he absolutely can. I think he can. I look at it this way. I think Jared Vanderbilt is more important for this Lakers team than Gabe Vincent. I think what he's going to bring next season and what you're going to need from him functionally is going to be more important than what you're getting off the bench from Gabe. I think they really need guys who can defend on the perimeter, and Jared Vanderbilt is one of their best bets at that. All right, we got a couple of super chats. Then we're going to head off to the weekend here. Trade Rui and Gabe all in. Dylan Brooks and Oso Ighodaro. I mean, sure, but why would the Suns do that? They love Oso. I love Oso. He's great. Not as much as Keith does, but my least favorite, but Patrick Williams, a 27 first plus a pick swap. I don't know if they want the long-term money of Patrick Williams on their books, even with the picks coming in. My favorite is Miles Bridges, though. How do you feel? Yeah, maybe. I think that you want to try to keep as much flexibility and optionality moving forward as you can. If you could turn Rui and Gabe into Dylan Brooks and Oso Ighodaro, I would do that. What do the Suns want to do that? You're probably having to give up stuff to get those guys. I don't think Phoenix particularly wants to move on from Dylan Brooks. I think he's actually one of the better, definitely fits better with Booker than Jalen Green does. But I wouldn't mind those guys as targets. I think you're probably talking about adding, though, if it's Rui and Gabe Vincent. I think Oso Ighodaro is a really intriguing young big that's got some talent too. So I don't think you're doing a straight up swap. If you could do a straight up swap, I would do that if I'm the Lakers. I don't think you could do that, though. As far as trading Rui and Gabe and going all in, if you're taking on long-term money, you just have to make sure that you are confident that that's the guy you want long-term, that's the guy you want next to Luka for the long haul. Everything the Lakers do is now happening through that lens. What does this look like with Luka long-term? Who do you prefer for the Lakers right now? Nick Richards or Andrew Wiggins, wing depth or another big? Andrew Wiggins. It would be the wing depth for me, personally. I don't think... I'm not like, could they use another big? Yes. But Ayton is going to get the lion's share of the minutes. I'm not that down on Jackson Hayes as a 10 to 15 minute night off the bench guy. I think he can still do some things for them. I do think he has some chemistry with Luka as a lob threat. So I'm okay with that. Can Maxey be a guy for you in the future? Maybe. You do have Christian Koloko, who I think is getting better on a two-way contract. So maybe you've got a little bit of potential there. And I just think it's more difficult to find wings. Wiggins, though, I wouldn't give up the first to get Wiggins. And I think that's key. And Miami would want that. So I don't know if there's a deal to be struck there. Nick Richards, certainly cheaper, easier to fit the contract and all of that. But contracts aside, I think fundamentally, if I could pick, forgetting Wiggins or Nick Richards, if I could pick a defensive wing player for this Lakers team or a big, I would take the wing right now. That's where I'm at with them. All right, everybody. Been going for an hour here. Didn't mean to, but time flies. I will be live later on tonight for Lakers Nation. We'll talk Lakers specific stuff on that show this evening, but I got to go pack a little bit. So I appreciate all of you for coming in. Thank you guys for bearing with me here. I know the front office show, it's not the same when it's just one of us. If it's just Keith and not me, just me, not Keith, it's just not quite the same, but we do our best. We do our best, and Keith getting some much needed vacation in, so I'm happy for him and appreciate all of you sticking with us here. So till next time, see ya and stay safe.